If you're not at peace with what's happening out in the world, come back to the inside. If you're not feeling inspired or enthusiastic about how you can show up in the world and in your life, come back to the inside. Begin within. Start with cultivating that space of awareness and look within. What is this bringing out of me? When you're experiencing that wholeness within you, rather than all of the divisions in the mind, you're going to experience inspiration. You're going to experience joy. You're going to experience immense, unlimited creativity and energy. Right? So the more that you cultivate and be in and return to and access and celebrate and validate that space of awareness, the greater capacity you'll have to meet with, to be with, all of those layers coming out all at once, right? It feels like everything's happening all at once right now for a lot of folks, and awareness can have it. Hello and welcome to the Higher Vibe. I'm Jean. You may have seen me before. I'm the host of this channel. And today I'm offering a little bit something different for a little while. I'm going to do a 3-part series on healing. 3 episodes related to what is healing. And I want to say healing is almost overused as a word. I think there's a lot of people that maybe even have a lot of resistance to to even using that term healing, or maybe it's overused and why don't we just let ourselves be? And other people are maybe just encountering an inner world of healing for the first time and really getting to know themselves as healers, or really getting to know a lot more about what healing is. And so I'm going to speak to both of those things and cover a lot of information about the source of healing, what healing's really all about on that inner level, how that looks, and also the what I call 3 steps of healing, or stages of healing, that they're really all happening at the same time. It's kind of a non-linear steps. So I'm going to bring us to a lot of that information as well. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here. The reason I'm bringing up this topic of healing is, one, because I am a healer. I call myself a spiritual healer because I am addressing the space within each of us that is whole. And so I am saying hello to everyone's wholeness. And that's really the source of healing. That's what healing's all about. Healing is restoring wholeness, bringing us back to our inherent state of wholeness. Wholeness is really one way of describing who and how our beingness is in its natural state of being. We are whole, we are complete, we are undivided. And so healing is really restoring that to our awareness, to all the levels, right? To our awareness, to our mind, and from there into our body mind as well, right into our body. Because our body is in our mind, not the other way around, our body is the effect of the mind. And so healing, ultimately, that restoring of wholeness, is really about the mind, restoring the mind to wholeness. So what does that mean? And how does that look? And how does that then affect our body? Because when we talk about wholeness in the body, well, bodies are, by their very nature, divided, right? They're separate from the whole. We each have our individual bodies. But wholeness within a body looks like all systems go, body systems in balance and in wellness and functioning properly, a level of vitality of your soul essence functioning in the body, and things are all a go, right? But in the process of healing on that inner level, our body can go through quite a lot of change and symptoms that don't look well. And so I think this is something that prevents a lot of people from deepening their healing journey, because they then experience the effects on the body and think, well, things are getting worse, not better, right? So when we judge healing by an outer standard of how our body is doing, we can often invalidate the process of healing for ourselves, because when we're judging it based on how the body's doing, we might be going through, on a deep soul level, immense healing, immense restoring of wholeness to the mind, immense releasing of all kinds of old judgment and guilt and shame and fear and all of the things that divide the mind. And on the surface, on the body level, that can look sometimes like a lot of pain coming out, different sickness emerging, symptoms. It can look like, okay, if I'm healing, why is my body getting worse or going through periods of unwellness? Shouldn't I be having perfect health at this point? And that's often not the case. And I don't want to scare anyone. But what this is about is just really validating that it's part of the process of healing. I liken it to, if you've ever had a cleanse, right? You go through a physical cleanse. Maybe you're doing a fast, maybe you're doing a juice fast, some kind of liver cleanse, whatever it is. On that physical level, if you're giving yourself an opportunity to cleanse, the body often goes through what is called a healing crisis, where so much is releasing all at once, because you're fasting from certain, heavier foods or damaging foods, or you're just giving yourself that moment of deep cleanse. So all this stuff is coming out, right? All the poison's coming out, all the toxins. And what that looks like to the body might be some uncomfortable symptoms, I won't name them all, but if you've ever done that, you might be familiar with what I'm saying hello to there. So in that process of healing, it can look like, my health isn't well, but it is restoring that wholeness and that wellness on the physical level by removing all the toxins and poison. But there's that time, that period of experience when the poison is coming out, when the toxins are releasing, that it can sometimes look like it's wreaking havoc, but it's the process that it takes to restore that wellness and that wholeness. So I wanted to say hello to that, because I notice in a lot of soul's experience of healing, that's sometimes where they can meet an edge of doubt, uncertainty, fear, like, oh, what's happening to me, But sometimes the most amazing, profound healing that happens on a soul level can outwardly look like, right afterwards, a whole bunch of symptoms or problems or messes on an outer level. And so it's so important to look at that and recognize and validate, oh, this is all that stuff coming out. This is all the poison coming out. This is the energetic toxins releasing, right? Energetic toxins being fear coming out, guilt coming out of the mind. All on a subconscious level, that stuff comes out, right? When we're healing, we're releasing the divisions in our mind. And those divisions mostly are sitting in the unconscious space. And so a healing is one, these are the 3 stages that I'm going to be talking about. That first stage being awareness. First, it comes out of that unconscious or subconscious space, the darkness, to the light of awareness. Oh, this is what's going on. Oh, there's this fear here. Oh, there's this guilt here. Oh, this pain that I've been experiencing, this psychic pain, that's what this is. It's all this self-judgment, or it's all this blame energy, or it's all this anger and frustration and holding things against myself or against another person. Whatever it is, that's those divisions within the mind coming to the surface. So that first level of healing is just bringing it up to awareness. So it's no longer just stuff down in the subconscious mind where we might not even know it's there, but we experience it as limits in our life, stuckness in our life, karmic patterns in relationships, or pain or unwellness on a physical level. However that's manifesting, this first level of healing, which is always an inner experience of bringing light to the darkness, bringing those subconscious patterns into awareness. So I'm just going to address the 3 stages that I'll be talking about, but I'm only going to go into the first one in here. The first stage or step in the process of healing is just bringing awareness to it, right? Bringing awareness is the first level of healing. And there is really just incredible healing that happens just with that first step, right? To continue it, we then move into acceptance, right? Because once we're aware of something, it can still linger and not release. Those divisions can remain there if once we become aware of them, we don't want to accept them. We want to resist them or judge them or try to figure them out or just sit there and feel bad about them, and go into guilt or shame. And then once we've brought it to acceptance, the final step, which is really, again, these are all happening at the same time usually. They're not really separate steps if someone's just fully releasing energy. But if it's a more long, drawn out process of healing, there are these significant stages that your consciousness moves through. Awareness, acceptance, and then the final stage being forgiveness, right? Letting it go. So the acceptance and forgiveness, those are always intertwined as well. We can't forgive something if we haven't accepted it. And really, once we've fully accepted it, we're already at that place of forgiveness. The final step there is very incremental. This is just a subtle shift. So I'll talk about those two in the next 2 episodes. But this first step of just awareness, just bringing the divisions within us to the light of awareness, it's so crucial and so huge. And often, again, where we get caught up in the results in terms of how that light of awareness entering the subconscious mind, how that manifests in our life and in our world. And sometimes that can look a little messy, or it can look like not what we would want it to be. Our reaction is like, oh, but I don't want my life to fall apart, or I don't want to go through this healing crisis, or I don't want to have these symptoms, or I would like everything to just be neat and tidy on the outer level. But when we try to maintain all of that control and perfection on the outer level, then we really prevent ourselves from digging deeper and allowing the light of awareness to reach some of those deeper levels of the subconscious mind where those divisions linger. Because, well, what prevents awareness? Maybe we're afraid. Maybe, again, the control. We'd like to keep things under tidy wraps. We'd like to, not rock the boat. We'd like to stick with what's familiar, what feels safe, right? So that first step of just bringing the division within us to the light of awareness, it's huge. And I just want to say, like, if you're bringing new things up to your awareness, if all of a sudden you have those aha moments of, oh, I've been being guilty about something, I've been beating myself up about this, or, oh, I've been holding a lot of resentment about this, or I've been, harboring a lot of shame about this. Whenever we start to have those discoveries of that inner pattern within us, it's so important to validate that and give it space. Like, oh, and celebrate each little new awareness, each space that you open up in the mind, and give space for the fear to come out with it, because it is the fear that has held it in that subconscious space. Right? So as the energy comes out into the light of awareness, it's going to come out with that fear. And what's so amazing about awareness and bringing new things to the light of awareness is you get to be that awareness. You get to be awareness rather than the fear that awareness is bringing out of you. I'll say that again because it's so basic and yet so deep and profound to just recognize, oh yes, in this first and most crucial step in healing, you are being awareness. You are being in that witness and space of just pure awareness. And in that space, all the stuff comes out of the subconscious mind, and with it, all the fear that's been holding it down in that dark space. So if you can be the light of awareness, celebrate that as the new awareness comes up. Celebrate, oh, I am this awareness. I am opening space for this energy to release. Then you can allow that fear to come out rather than get stuck in it. When we get stuck in the fear, it's because we've become the fear. We've become entrapped in it because we're identifying with it. We're trying to solve it. We're matching it, right? When we match the fear, we're afraid of it because we are that fear. You won't be afraid of fear if you're not being the fear, right? You're just seeing it. Oh, there's a lot of fear in there. I have been holding a lot of fear in there, and now I can let that go. And the only way to let it go is to not be it. To let it go is to, see that you are that awareness. So that's the first And such an important step. It's important to recognize in the process of healing, in that restoring wholeness in the mind, what you're really restoring is your true identity. You're really restoring your true self, who you actually really are as spirit, as a spiritual being, as beingness itself. It's so good when you recognize that, to just go, oh, what a relief. I don't have to be this fear that I'm letting go of. I don't have to get caught up in every time there's a new energy that I'm letting go of in the process of healing. I don't have to get wrapped up in fixing it, solving it. We do that subconsciously, the fixing and solving, when we're identified with what's coming out. Because when we're identified with it, we've really got to figure out, I don't know what this is, so I got to figure it out. I got to figure it out because this is what it is, and I got to figure out what's going on. But when we're just being awareness, there's no need to figure it out or solve it. It's just, this is an energy that's coming out, and I can continue to let it go by giving it space to be. So I'm going to say a little bit more about awareness now in the process of healing. And I laugh about this a little as I'm talking about it, because to me it sounds more complicated than it is when I talk about it. It really is so simple. The awareness, acceptance, forgiveness is all happening all at once. It's all emanating from that same space within you of spirit and wholeness. And as you welcome in that true identity, all of those kind of levels that I've differentiated are happening at the same time. But it isn't often our experience that it happens spontaneously and quick like that. It can, right? People have spontaneous miracle healings all the time, where just that oneness of beingness is just fully seen and known and experienced, and all the pain and division and unwellness releases all at once. But I think more often our experience is a little bit more incremental. It's a little slower, more drawn out in waves and stages, right? And so when we're experiencing it more in those waves and stages and levels of healing, this awareness of these stages, or these different areas that I'm pointing out of awareness, acceptance, and forgiveness, are really helpful, because then you can recognize what you can return to when you're in a healing crisis, or when you're in a big growth period, I call it, where there's a lot releasing, there's a lot changing, you're experiencing a lot of energy moving, and you're like trying to find your center again, or trying to find some sense of stability, or who you are and what's going on amidst all the change. If you can return to that first step, so to speak, that first space of just awareness. Oh yes. Giving yourself space to just be aware. And what does that mean? Well, you are, as a being, awareness itself, right? You're pure awareness, pure lovingness. But in the process of healing, you're bringing that awareness into the body. So this is why embodiment practices are so helpful and important, and there's a lot of them, right, in the world right now. There's a lot of people teaching and practicing and offering and creating different embodiment practices, and those are all wonderful, because what they're all essentially activating or supporting or inviting us into is presence and awareness here in the body-mind, right? Because we can't bring awareness into the dark spaces within the subconscious mind, which are represented in and by the body, unless we're willing to be in that body, right? Otherwise we're bringing the light somewhere else, not into the darkness of the subconscious mind or the body mind. So having that embodiment practice of just bringing the presence of your deep, pure, undivided awareness here into the body mind is such an amazing and important first step. So if you practice any kind of embodiment practices, wonderful. Breath work, movement, just bringing presence and awareness here into the body. Awesome first step. And what I want to point out with various embodiment practices, and with no judgment, just to clarify the importance of the awareness of the mind in those embodiment practices. A lot of embodiment practices are really about getting into the physical sensation of the body, which is great as well. And there's so much health and healing that comes from creating the physical wellness through movement in the body. And when we recognize that the body is in the mind, it's important not to forget or leave out that aspect of embodiment. Like what is embodiment if the body is in the mind? Oh, we're also looking at what's going on in the mind. And so this is what meditation does. That's why I love meditation, and I love to teach meditation and offer that. But any form of meditation that's really about observing the mind, not getting out of the mind or trying to wrestle with or stop the mind, but just observing it from that place of neutral presence and awareness. So meditation is that practice of being awareness, observing and being aware of the mind, the field of the mind that is this vast creative happening that we experience as the world and as our bodies and as all of the things that we and other people that we encounter in the world. So in observing that and having that space of meditation, you are cultivating your presence of awareness, your presence of being awareness. You're cultivating your wholeness because awareness is whole. And in being that awareness, being that wholeness, you're allowing yourself to identify with that which is and always has been whole, so that you can have more space to let go of that which divides that wholeness, right? All of the images and energies in the mind that invalidate your wholeness or that distract you from your wholeness, that either invalidate or distract you from your wholeness or hide away from your awareness of that wholeness. So that is super helpful. First step of healing is cultivating awareness, returning to that space of awareness no matter what's going on, but especially when things are turbulent or heavy or confusing, like, okay, just return to that center and that awareness. And as you cultivate that awareness and allow new levels of awareness, right, new experiences of discovery of what's in the mind, right, which is allowing that light of awareness to expand into the dark reaches of the mind and discover what's there. As you expand into that space, there's two things happening simultaneously. You're learning more and more about what awareness is. What is wholeness? What is awareness? Well, one, it's completely non-judgmental. There's no judgment in awareness, right? Awareness is neutral. It's not for or against, it just is. And in cultivating and discovering that, you recognize, oh, so much of the problems that I experience and create in life come from not being neutral, come from having some sort of agenda of being for or against something that I'm experiencing and then needing to change it or fix it or solve it or go into effort or grapple with it. Whereas when we return to that space of our true identity as pure awareness, things really do resolve themselves quite amazingly. And that doesn't mean we're not doing anything, but from that space of pure awareness, our inspiration for what actions to take or what creative capacity to move into allows the resolution to happen without the effort, without the struggle, without the difficulty, and without the pain. So cultivating awareness, so many benefits, but we get to discover more about who we are, right? There's that space of neutrality we discover and how much power we can access when we're not playing the for or against game. And so, as I said, there's two aspects that happen. There's the discovery of who we are, that awareness, and simultaneously there's the discovery of what is in the mind. We discover the contents of the mind, right? As we become more rooted in our true identity as spirit and just being that awareness, we're pulling our creative energy out of the mind, right? We're, instead of being the contents of the mind, we're being the awareness of the contents of the mind. So rather than your energy going into all of the contents of the mind, right? This picture of fear or this imagining of pain or struggle, all of the contents of the mind that we experience as our life here, we get to let go of what we've been subconsciously creating, right? Which is basically a lot of problems and conflict and difficulty, right? And karma. And we get to start letting go of that and allowing the wholeness that we are to bring healing and resolution to all of that by letting go of those divisions in the mind and where our creative energy has involved itself in perpetuating those divisions and creating more and more of them. So those two things are simultaneously happening. We're letting go of all of these old creations that happened when we weren't being pure spirit and being that awareness. And we're also cultivating and discovering more and more of who we are as spirit, as pure awareness. And another quality I wanted to point out here, I pointed out the quality of neutrality that awareness is, and also that quality of compassion, right? Because I think oftentimes when we try to conceptualize or intellectualize what is neutrality, it might sound like kind of aloof or uncaring or distant or not engaged. And it's quite the opposite, actually. Neutrality with non-judgment, without being for or against, that doesn't mean there's resistance or avoidance. It actually means you can be quite fully present with any and all energy, with any and all levels of pain, with any and all levels of whatever dysfunction or beauty is happening in the world. And that's what compassion is. Compassion is, well, the literal definition is to be with suffering. So compassion is that capacity to be with, to be fully present with whatever pain or suffering or beauty or bliss or whatever is happening. There's just the capacity to be right there with it. And so that is also an aspect of awareness. Awareness is purely neutral and purely compassionate. There's no judgment, there's no resistance, there's no avoidance, there's no agenda. It's just pure presence and delighting in that presence. And of course, in that compassion and neutrality, there's lovingness, right? We couldn't be present and compassionate and neutral if there wasn't also that aspect of spirit that is just love, just pure lovingness. Lovingness is a presence that, there's so many words we could put to it, but first and foremost, it isn't judgmental, right? It just is. And it's inclusive. It's what wholeness is, right? It's lovingness. It's inclusive. There's a quote that I don't remember who said it, so I want you to look it up if that's important to you to know who said this, but it's something that I've remembered ever since I heard it many, many years ago. And it's a quote about what love is, and it says that love embraces everything but possesses nothing. And I might have gotten some of the words a little bit off, but it's this hello to that love encompasses all, it's inclusive of all, but it's not possessing, right? It's not holding on to, it doesn't have an agenda, it doesn't have judgment, it's just presence with, in total lovingness. So that's another quality of awareness that you get to cultivate and incorporate and include in your inner beingness as you move through the process of healing and expanding into awareness in the process of healing, which is restoring your wholeness. You get to discover more and more of what is that? Oh, that is so much love. And I think in the process of that, it might start out where we think we know what love is, and it's a little bit of a concept, or we experience it as a thrill in our heart here or there, or just a warmth in relationship to the people we love, or an inner compass that guides us, or a strong magnetic power that draws us to connect and to share and to give. But as that grows and we cultivate that more and more in our presence and awareness and allowingness of that, we discover more and more just the immense capacity of love, and really just how much that word is inadequate. Words are very inadequate, but here I am attempting to use them to communicate with you out of love. So that's another aspect of it. And another aspect of this embodied practice of bringing this first level of healing in, of cultivating awareness and having awareness, is that it's whole and inclusive in the sense that when we start to discover levels of division within us and release them, it's not always neat. It's not just like, oh, there's this one. They're all interrelated, right? So it's inclusive and whole, that expanding of healing that happens expands into all levels at once. And I'm pointing this out because oftentimes, there's part of us that would like things to be neat and tidy as we're healing, or to be able to control things and say, well, let's just address this level over here. I'll uncover this fear, but I don't really want to deal with that guilt right now. Or maybe just like, let's address this shame, but like, I really don't want to deal with that regret right now. Or, this blame over here, fine. Okay. I'm going to look at that. But don't even talk to me about all this judgment over here. But because healing and love and wholeness and awareness are whole, they're complete, they don't leave anything out. When we uncover one layer of energy, it is often, I could say always, but probably almost always, intertwined with other layers. And so it's important in your awareness to leave space for that, right? Awareness doesn't try to control. It just is, right? So leaving space for, when I bring this energy to my awareness, it's okay if that comes with a whole lot of other baggage, so to speak. Hey, why not? If we're going to clean out the back of the closet, we might as well clean it all out, right? Don't just take one piece out at a time. Let's just uncover it all. So I wanted to say hello to that too, because especially right now on the planet, I think this has been, this energy of healing and awareness and lovingness has been increasing exponentially for many years, but especially right now, there's this huge opening, this huge purge, this just immense wave of lovingness, of light and awareness and lovingness. And as that comes in, it's not just, let's just take out this little sliver over here or this little, it's the whole thing, right? It's all of it. And so a lot of people are experiencing healing crisis in the sense that it's big. There's lots of layers and levels and all the karma, all the things coming out at once. Not everybody, but there's a certain population of souls that we're here for it. We're ready for it. Like, bring it on, whether we're consciously saying that in the body or not, that's why we're here. And so it's big time right now. It's all coming out at once. So even more important to cultivate and be in that space of awareness, because awareness can have it all. Awareness isn't like, we're just going to have a little bit over here, a little bit over here. Awareness is like all of it. So the more that you cultivate and be in and return to and access and celebrate and validate that space of awareness, the greater capacity you'll have to meet with, to be with all of those layers coming out all at once, right? It feels like everything's happening all at once right now for a lot of folks, and awareness can have it. Your beingness can have it. Your beingness can release all of that all at once and let it be messy. It might be totally messy. Things aren't going to look neat and tidy in the healing process sometimes. Sometimes they can, but oftentimes, it gets a little messy. I think of it like when we're creating art, right? I don't know any artist, especially painting, sculpting, all of those more tactile arts, but any kind of creative artist, knows and is experiencing that it's not tidy and neat, right? If you look inside an artist studio, it's like, everything is everywhere, right? There's all the stuff, all the energy, all the creativity. There's all the colors over here and all the supplies over here. And it's this process, the creative process. It's not about keeping it orderly and neat. For some artists, it can be that way. There's no judgment on that. If it's orderly and neat for you, that's wonderful. But oftentimes the creative process is messy and it's all over the place. And because in order for something new to emerge, we have to kind of let things fall apart and get all in disarray and not orderly in order to create and see and allow new patterns to emerge. So that's how the healing process works, and that's kind of how it looks right now on the planet, right? It looks a little messy. It looks a little untidy, disorderly. It looks a little like things are falling apart. And so to address kind of the micro and the macro, I've been addressing what healing looks like on a more personal level, on that inner journey of healing and restoring wholeness and bringing light to the darker reaches of the subconscious mind. On the macro level, on the collective level, on planet Earth right now, that's where we're at. All the divisions are coming out. All the hidden divisive energy is coming out. And a lot of us have seen it for a long time and have been trying to point it out, like, this is all messed up. But now it's really on the surface and you can't ignore it anymore. And that's great because these two dance together, the micro and the macro, right? So as we see these obvious divisions displayed in the world right now, this obvious energy of greed, of control, of punishment, of lack of compassion, conflict, war, lack, a whole lot of lack and unwellness, as we see all of these displayed in the world and played out in the world, that simultaneously brings it out of us. So there's this dance happening where it's happening on the micro level, on the inner level within each of us. We're each purging our own inner demons, inner divisions, so to speak. At the same time, we're seeing that happening on the global level. And it's both and, right? It's not that the inner is causing the outer or the outer is causing the inner. It's kind of both and. They're all happening at the same time because they're all a reflection of each of those at the same time. So the response can always be to begin within, right? When you see something out in the world and you have a judgment about it or a fear about it or an overwhelm or a sense of unease or hopelessness or panic or whatever it is, whatever your response is when you observe the world and what's happening, come back to the inside, right? If you're not at peace with what's happening out in the world, come back to the inside. If you're not feeling inspired or enthusiastic about how you can show up in the world and in your life, come back to the inside. Begin within. Start with cultivating that space of awareness and look within. What is this bringing out of me? When you observe conflict in the world, war, people being assholes, whatever it is, whatever you're observing in the world and, having a reaction to, begin within. What is that bringing out of you? Bring that light of awareness to the mind. Are you experiencing judgment about it? Are you experiencing fear about it? Are you experiencing anger, which comes from fear? Are you experiencing hopelessness? Are you experiencing resistance? I don't want to, are you wanting to numb or resist? Because all of these will give you information about, are you centered in your awareness? Because again, awareness is neutral and compassionate and loving, right? So if you're reacting to the world in such a way that you're recognizing, oh, I'm not neutral and loving, I'm judging the shit out of this, or I'm really angry and afraid, or I'm just totally hopeless, or I'm feeling really confused or overwhelmed, whatever it is, bring that awareness to that. Notice that. Be with that. Okay, this is what it is. And notice awareness isn't judgmental. So you can be with judgment without judging it. You can be with fear without being afraid of it. You can be with blame without blaming yourself for seeing that blame. So you can allow yourself to see and be with all the energy that comes out of you, out of the mind, as you observe what's going on in the world and have various responses or reactions to it. And then what happens is you be with that and give that space to be, because awareness and pure presence is the first stage of that healing. You're restoring wholeness. And what comes from wholeness? When you're whole, you're fully, and you are whole, but when you're experiencing that wholeness within you rather than all of the divisions in the mind, you're going to experience inspiration. You're going to experience joy. You're going to experience immense, unlimited creativity and energy, right? And so from there, then you can act. If you react to what's happening in the world and try to go out there and fix, change, or solve something from a place of fear, or I don't want to say that anger is bad, but just recognizing that anger is the first stage of moving your energy. And once you release that, you'll be able to act from a place of joy, which is a much higher vibration of inspiration than anger. If you act from anger, you're going to produce a little bit more of the same, which is division and stuckness. But if you allow that anger to be like a fire that burns through the fear layers, and then as you move into higher levels of energy, then you get more to that space of your inner wholeness where you can act from pure joy and inspiration. That's going to create the kind of changes that I think a lot of us would love to see in the world, not because we need it to be different in order to have our joy, but because our joy creates that difference out there in the world, right? So joy doesn't say, I need this to be different in order to have joy. And joy just is, right? And from that beauty and that joy, so much change is created, because joy is a vibration that is just so beautiful. It doesn't create conflict and hate and division and war and lack and all of those things. Joy creates abundance because it is abundant. Joy creates connection and sharing and lovingness because it is all of those things. And joy creates, a harmonious care for one another because it is all of those things. So starting with awareness, notice what kinds of reactions, responses come up within you in relationship to your life, experiences, the whole, whatever, and start cultivating the presence of awareness every day, every moment. You can come back to that. That's going to restore your inner wholeness, because that's what inner wholeness is. It's just pure presence and awareness and lovingness. And from there, you can create so much beauty and joy and a whole different experience on the outer level as well. But this healing that I'm talking about is that process, is that in the stages of healing, there's all the stuff coming out. We see that in the world right now, all the stuff coming out, and many of us experience that in our lives, right? Things get messy for a while. We're releasing a lot of guilt or shame or fear or grief. There's a lot of grief releasing right now in the collective. So many individual and collective layers of grief are releasing from humanity. And a lot of that is about the grief. Grief is always loss, right? It's experience of loss, but this grief that's releasing is as we have this immense opportunity to return to our true self. That grief that's releasing is from that loss of how many lifetimes we haven't been in connection with our true self. When we've been distant from our true self, when we've been experiencing anything but that, there's an immense sense of loss. Where did I go? Where is my joy? Where is my lovingness? Where is my experience of freedom? Where is my experience of community? I think community is a reflection of wholeness within each individual, and all those individuals coming together it's an outward expression of wholeness when we have thriving, loving, harmonious community. And so the sense of just so many lifetimes of not having that collective loss is experienced as grief as it's coming out, as we're returning to that wholeness and returning to a more beautiful way of living together and living within ourselves. So let the grief come out. And of course, it's related to so many different personal experiences, both this lifetime and others, that we have so much to grieve for. a loss of self, a loss of wholeness or community or individuals in our lives. That's one of the layers that as it's coming out, you can be with it with awareness. Awareness gives everything total space to be, right? It doesn't fight it or resist it. And as energy's coming out, if we're just being with our awareness of it and allowing the experience, allowing the human experience of grieving or whatever the energy is that's coming out, we really allow ourselves to be that witness so that the energy can move, right? The analogy that's so often used is that awareness is the sky, and everything that we're aware of is like the clouds that pass by and come and go. And sometimes there's a storm and those clouds are really thick and dark and like dramatic. There's lightning and thunder and oh my God. And sometimes they're just like little wispy things passing by, but they always do move and clear. And the more we're in that space of awareness, just allowing that energy, those clouds to come and go and move, the more that energy passes through us and does clear. And we do find ourselves in that space of the clear blue sky more and more as the winds of the energy move and shift and change. And so that is a beautiful thing, and it's a joyous thing. It's even very possible, and I've experienced it many times, to experience joy and grief simultaneously, because you're in that space of awareness. There's pure joy, and you can also be with what you're aware of, the grief that's passing. I think a lot of people experience this when, we have that expression, tears of joy, that you release tears of joy. And that's both the grief coming out because there's more joy present. That joy really clears out the grief. And so have your tears of joy, as so much healing is happening. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I want to return to, there's a lot of people I think that might be a little road weary or just kind of sick of the term healing. Like, okay, we're done. I don't need all this healing, We're whole already. And I just want to say, don't get caught up in the words. The energy that I'm addressing right now is just that return to wholeness, that validation of wholeness, and that allowing for anything that needs to clear or release in that process to happen. That's the process of healing. And healing really isn't something that we need to effort or seek out. It's more just allowing ourselves to be present with life and to be in that place of awareness. Then healing is naturally happening, as long as we're saying hello to our inner beingness and the lovingness within us and the presence and awareness within us right here in our body mind. Healing's happening, whether we're seeking it out or just letting it be and not paying much attention to that as a word. It is happening. So whether you're interested in it or not, if you're listening to this, I hope you validate that a lot of healing is happening on the planet right now. A lot of people restoring to wholeness. And that doesn't always look pretty on the outside. And it's not happening to every soul. It's just an immensely larger number of souls than previous, I would say, are experiencing a greater capacity for their inner wholeness and a greater return to that space of wholeness. And so there's a lot of healing happening on the inner planes and on the outer planes. But sometimes, again, that process of healing on the inner planes can look and feel and be experienced as a little bit messy on the outer planes as things fall apart in order to be created anew in a higher vibration, on a new level, in a greater space of wholeness and wellness for all of us. So I am here to cheer you on if you're in that process, and I hope that this discussion of healing has been supportive and validating for you in your process of healing, of awakening, of restoring wholeness within you, and just simply validating that, right? That doesn't have to be some efforted, difficult thing. It's really just cultivating that awareness, leaving space within us for whatever growth and change and release is happening. And then a validation of that along the way, a validation of how much things are changing and growing and shifting and moving within you. So thank you for being here. I hope you've enjoyed your time listening to my voice. I'm sharing a lot beyond my words, so many blessings. Thank you for your presence. I'll see you next time on The Higher Vibe. Bye. Hello. Hello. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. If you did, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. Share this with friends. Really helps us out and we really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you next time.